Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is episode number 2 of the Up Your Brave live stream video series. So what we're doing is basically collectively, I'm bringing amazing people with incredible tips out to the world because collectively we're trying to raise the state of resilience, health, and happiness on a global level. So today our topic is supporting kids through challenging times. Last week we did supporting teens and tweens through challenging times. And this week it's all about the kids. So I'll just give you a little heads up of what's coming up. I was on a FaceTime this morning with William Pike from the William Pike Award. He's super excited to be on a panel with me on the topic of leadership in a few weeks' time. That's on April 30th. But this week we have a leadership panel. Next week we are doing resilience in business and life. And we're also doing staying well. So stay with us. It's going to be awesome. I'm super excited to introduce you to my guests for today. We're going to go first to Celia Hogan. So Celia is a friend of mine from way back in the day. We used to work together. Well, not work together, learn together.
Yeah.
Through challenging times at Aotearoa Polytech in Timaru, which, if you didn't know, is the love capital of New Zealand. That's where I met my husband. I did not know that trivia. So Celia, I'm going to read your bio to you, and then I'm going to get her to elaborate. Celia is an educator and advocate for nature play and building resilience and improving mental health and well-being through nature. She led a petition to enable full-time nature-based kindergartens to start in New Zealand. Go you! Very exciting. And her personal goal is to see every child spend 3 hours outside in New Zealand. I cannot wait to talk about that in more detail.
Yay. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm just gonna let Anne join. We've got Anne joining us as well. Brilliant. We've got everybody here. So we got everybody here now. There we go. We're all here. So there we go. What I'm going to do is I'll do a brief intro on all of you, and then I'll get you to elaborate, Celia. So my second guest is Judith from The Confident Eater. So Judith is all about helping picky eaters, teaches parents how to get their picky eaters eating. She's the author of Creating Confident Eaters, the guide for fussy eating, and works with individual families to get eating back on track, run webinars and workshops. Judith hosts events for parents in conjunction with other experts and do PD, personal development, for organizations who work with their children. Yay, Judith, welcome.
Thank you. Lovely to be here.
Very exciting. Judith is live streaming all the way from Wellington. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
And Celia's in Christchurch and in Auckland. No, not in Auckland, in New Plymouth, Anne? In New Plymouth. And I love how we're so diverse here today. We've got Anne Cullen, speaker, advanced coach with the MAP Coaching Institute, and parenting specialist. She's a spokesperson for and parent advisor for the Natural Parent magazine, and her mission is to ensure children grow up feeling safe, secure, and understood, and their parents enjoy the journey. I can't wait to share your tips on how we can enjoy the journey more and more. Welcome, Anne.
Hi, and I am having a lot of trouble understanding the rest of you all today, so hopefully you can hear me just fine at least.
So far, so good. We can hear you. Okay, we're going to go to Celia. Celia, I would love it if you could give us a little bit more backstory on you and supporting kids, and then we're going to do a round of tips.
Cool. Hey, thanks so much for having me. I guess I studied with Nat, outdoor education, years ago, and, fast forward 20 years, have kids, and I've found myself helping teachers, educators, and parents to get their children outdoors and into nature. So I do it in a couple of different ways. One way is through professional development. I run training and workshops, helping teachers to bring nature in to their schools or their classroom, but also to go outside and help kind of empower them and build their confidence to be able to take lessons outside and apply it there. Because being outside, it's a real world experience, and it flows so much better, and kids love it, to be honest. I also help set up one-day programs. So a school might want to set up a forest school, and I can help with that, or an early childhood centre setting up an excursion program from their kindergarten. So that's kind of the professional development stuff. I also run a bush kindy play group, and we have parents and children come along, and they spend a couple of hours outside every week with us, and that's all year round, no matter what the weather. So if it's raining, if it's sunny, they're building resilience, they are growing in confidence, developing emotionally and socially. It's pretty awesome. So there's that, and I also advocate nationally and internationally for nature play, risky play, and that's where what you were talking about before, Nat, the legislative change. So I'm still lobbying for that, and fingers crossed that's going to go through at some stage in the next couple of years. And I say couple of years because these things take time, but I'm still on the bandwagon there.
And
speaking stuff as well. Yeah,
definitely. So I'd love to go to our comments. We've got a couple people jumping on. So let us know where you're watching from. If you want to comment and let us know geographically where you're tuning in from, whether you're watching live or watching the replay, let us know where you're coming from. And we're just doing a quick intro round here. So I'll go to Judith to give us a little bit of backstory about how she got involved supporting kids in her special way. And then we'll go on to Anne. Thanks, Judith.
Fantastic. Thanks, Nat. And I just wanted to say, Celia, I'm so big on outside time. And my boys used to say to me, Mum, you do realise that we're the only people walking today, don't you? You know, as we're walking to school in the sheeting wind and the rain and stuff. But it's character building.
Indeed.
Yeah. And now they go, oh, it's only a bit of rain.
Yeah.
It's
cool.
So, anyway, I'm Judith, the confident eater. And I support children who have a child who struggles to eat, not an eating disorder like, anorexia or bulimia, but someone who just can't bring themselves to eat that food. And there's loads of reasons for picky eating, but there are a lot of common cofactors like ASD, sensory sensitivities, anxiety, that sort of stuff. And studies on teens have shown that children who are uncomfortable eating foods can become risk averse in other areas. So, it can have knock-on effects to other parts of their lives. And that makes sense because picky eating does affect the whole family, and it really affects family dynamics. It impacts on social occasions, it impacts on entertainment because that often revolves around food, it impacts on your travel, all of those sort of things. So what I do is non-medical, practical, and really gentle. Primarily, it's about putting the joy back into food, not just for children, but for the whole family. And, my mission is to ensure that all children can approach food from a place of safety and joy, not fear. And supporting families who are in this, what can only be described a lot of the time as a crisis situation, is really, really rewarding. Watching a child gradually able to eat new foods is a positive on so many levels, emotionally, socially, mentally, physically. And my philosophy is that change is the precursor to new. If we're not able to accept change, it's really difficult to accept new. So this is especially important if we have an extremely selective eater, because it's a really gentle way to enable them to take those first steps forward. And in what seems almost counter to this, it's also the routines and the predictability and the comfort around foods and meal times that's critically important and that enables us to support families who are in this difficult situation. Having structure and routines around food and feeding plus a change of approach is always my first step when working with a family. And that would bring me into my tip number one. But we're not going to do that yet.
Yeah,
so I'm going to sit and rest.
What's interesting is, so people, as we're watching this now, right, we are literally in lockdown on a global level. I think in New Zealand, we're in week 4, I think, at the moment. It'll be interesting to discuss with you later, Judith, about the impact of, challenging times in general, right? Any challenging times. Doesn't have to be COVID. Might be like, awkwardness in the parent relationship, or someone having a hard time at school or whatever. But, food is a massive factor, as you said, in that. So I can't wait to dive a little deeper into like in this lockdown situation. I imagine families are probably eating together more than normal, and how that is actually impacting them. I don't know. We'll dive into that in just a moment. Thank you guys for commenting. I can see that people are coming at us from we have Joe in Christchurch, we have Carol in Waihee Beach, Rachel West Harbor, Marie in Cambridge, thank you so much for joining us. Sarah Valentine in Auckland, amazing. All right, let's go to Anne. Her tech is not the best, but she's going to roll with it. Anne, can you do your intro for us?
Okay, I heard my name in there. I am not getting much of this conversation. I can't wait to go back and watch the recording to hear all of you. So I'm so happy to be here. Natalie, thanks for organizing this and thanks for inviting me. It's unfortunate that my internet's not cooperating. But, you know, I have been working with families for nearly 30 years. And the first half of my career, I worked directly with the children. And since becoming a mum 15 years ago, the second half of my career has actually been supporting parents, because really I found that, yes, I could make a difference to children working directly with them. And I do love it so much. I actually miss it a bit. But really, the most important thing in your children's lives is you as their parents. And so this is where my passion comes from, where the fuel comes from to keep me doing this work every single day. So I call myself a connection-centered parenting specialist, because really nothing matters more for your children's well-being and success than their relationship with you. And sometimes this can feel like a bit of pressure, right? You want to get it right. But the good news is that there's some wiggle room in there. This is not about being perfect. It's really about making your child understand that you're with them, you're there for them, you hear them. So not totally giving away my tips yet, but you know, that's what matters more than anything, is just letting them know that you're there for them. And that's what connection-centered parenting to me is all about, just maintaining that connection. And the other part of that is recognizing that if that's the case, then that really you as parents, especially as mums, we need to look after ourselves. We need to stay connected to ourselves. Yeah. So it's both of those things that have to be in harmony and in balance. So when we're facing particularly challenging times, like what's happening now, but let's face it, we all experience challenges. Some of us just bigger challenges than others at different times. But the most important thing is just to maintain those relationships, maintain those connections, and put that first and foremost, and everything else is going to fall into place.
Amazing. Such a brilliant reminder. And I think that, yeah, we all know, especially as mothers, we know we should take care of ourselves, but it's always hard to actually do it. So I can't wait for some of your tips coming up. All right, let's dive into some of the tips. Welcome, Bridget from Dunedin. So great to see you. Okay, let's go to Celia. Celia, share with us, what is one way that us as parents, moms and dads, can support kids through challenging times, whether it be now in COVID or just life in general?
Oh, cool. I was really connecting to what Anne was saying there, and it's definitely one of a tip that I would recommend around connection, but I'm sure she's going to delve into it. So the lead on from having a good connection would be letting them play and letting them play outside. I think it's a really essential part of, you know, dealing with these challenging times. It helps us stay emotionally and physically healthy at the same time. It helps us cope with those feelings that, you know, it can be quite scary. Some children are not picking up as much on the adults around them and what's going on, but others are. And so when they're having those emotions, being outside is really, really helpful. Nature is naturally calming, and it helps stabilize our emotional state. So it's a really important part of it. So there's two parts. So there's the play and the outside time. The play side, letting children lead their own play and take control of aspects of their day can really help reduce anxiety. And there's a lot of studies around this, that when we feel out of control, our anxiety levels go up. So by
she's going to keep us in suspense. I was just taking notes in the chat box. She's going to keep us in suspense on that one for sure. Hey, quick story. I was doing a webinar actually this morning to about 30 insurance brokers, and I was talking about the 4 H's for resilience, success, and happiness. And one of the examples I used actually was, doing things that really fill your heart with joy. And I said, when I watch my kids on the trampoline outside in the green time, in the green time, not screen time, it fills my heart with joy. But you know what fills their heart with joy? When they go, Mom, come and play with us. And I say, okay. And I go on the tramp. And I'm not in charge. I'm not going, do this, do that, whatever. They're telling me what to do. Mommy, we're going to play Marco Polo. Put on this blindfold or whatever. And I just go with it. And we're outside and they're in charge, kind of like what Celia was talking about. I would say, let them play outside, but get in there with them as well. And maybe that's part of the connection thing. Okay, we're going to go to Judith for her very first tip. Go ahead, Judith.
Okay, so I'm really big on routines. When it comes to eating, having parameters, having structure, having routines is the first thing I'd look to implement, only because a lot of children who struggle to eat are anxious around food. So this translates really well into this whole COVID-19, sort of drama. There's a lot of anxiety around for parents and for children. And so introducing structure and introducing routine is very, very comforting for us as adults, but also for our children. So, having a defined breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, so children know this is what's happening and this is what's coming. And it's been funny. I've been working with some parents over the lockdown period, the home retreat period, and parents have actually used the eating structure we've implemented to help structure the rest of their day, and it's worked really, really well. So we had a practice run at the whole home retreat because my son had a cough and so couldn't go to school even though everyone else was at school, and so we ran his day based around what he would have been doing during that school day. And he even had the lunchbox to go with it, and it worked so well because he was like, hang on, Mum, it's snack time now. So, for him, it was really easy to maintain those routines, and it was really comforting for him to maintain those routines. And as a parent, it was excellent because I had to have a lot less input because he was running his own schedule.
Nice. I think the key there, right, is security, and whatever suits the child is going to really work well for them as well. So Sarah in the chat is saying food is basically our only structure at the moment. Yeah. Well, you know what, having some structure, I think, obviously, as Judith said, is so crucial. Just so that they know what's coming up. But at the same time, are you parents just loving not having to drive them here, there, and hither and beyond for activities? I mean, personally, I'm loving the fact that Matt and I as a couple, we're not tag teaming like we normally do. We always have dinner together as a family, but Ruby is often coming and going with cheerleading. And so it's like we're all there. We're starting to play these table games after dinner. It's just a different level of intense living. And so far we're enjoying it. But I know it is very, very challenging as well. Thank you, Celia, for joining us again. We're happy to see you back. I know you were on the verge of sharing a golden nugget with us. Can you remember what it was?
Yeah, I think it was just around anxiety, I think, and just when we are totally out of control, that's when our anxiety levels rise. So it's really important, especially for younger children, to allow them to have a lot of control over what they're doing in the day, because that will reduce their levels of anxiety. If as adults we are structuring their whole day, not saying no structure, but if we're structuring everything, then they feel more out of control. So we need to enable them to choose how they play. And that's why backyard play, loose parts play is a really essential part of it. But on the
loose parts play, can you elaborate?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so loose parts play. Loose parts are pieces of anything that can be used in more than one way. So, for example, a stick can be, it can be a mixer, it can be a wand, it can be a fishing rod. It can become anything the child's imagination and creativity can think of. So if we have lots of bits and pieces in the backyard, they can create and manipulate and change things, and it's really great for their play. It helps them play longer too, which is another thing that we really want during challenging times. If they can do that for longer, not only are parents happy, but kids are also a lot happier. They're controlling their play. Yeah. One other thing I did want to share with that play is there's another element, and I think you guys were talking about it, you know, having that connection through parents and playing with children. So it's important to balance that out, let them play at times by themselves or with you near. You know, they're still going to need that connection and to know that you are their safety net. So it might be that you're watching, observing, reading a book or whatever. But then there's the other kind of play where we get involved. And at the moment, rough and tumble is a really good thing to help through these challenging times, because it helps get rid of kind of pent up energy when kids have just got too much going on. But it's also that rough and tumble and laughter, it reduces stress hormones. And so we're trying to calm our children down, calm ourselves down, and have a calm environment. So having a bit of rough and tumble is actually a really beneficial thing that we can do to help with that.
Can I check in with you, Celia? Are you talking about rough and tumble like parent and child, or like siblings, or just whatever goes?
Parent-child is really good because you're getting that connection and that touch at the same time. But yes, siblings will work okay, but I think with parents, it's going to work even better because you're touching on the connection, the security, and, you know, also that reducing the stress hormones all at once.
Nice, nice, awesome. Oh, so good. So many topics, so many times I just want to jump in and elaborate, but we'll keep moving. I'm going to go to Anne for her tip number 1. Anne.
Did you? Yeah.
I'm typing to her at the same time.
All right. Here I am. I'm here. Yeah, so I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit flustered. I'm not able to hear your conversation very well. I'm a little bit lagging behind. So, hey, like I was saying when I introduced myself earlier, the most important thing we can do is connect with our children and build a relationship. So when we're going through challenging times, it's easy for us to get in our own like overwhelm and anxiety and all that stuff, all the noise. It's easy to get distracted with the news. It's easy to worry about, you know, are they doing enough schoolwork and all of that? Are they eating well? Of course. But what happens is if we get ourselves too distracted with our own noise, we stop listening to our kids. So my biggest tip is really to remember to take their perspective. So what I like to say is it's all your perspective. And if you're coming at all of this from your perspective, you're missing your child's perspective. So one of the best things we can do is really take some time to kind of put ourselves aside a little bit and really focus on them and take your time to focus in a moment. And of course, we're all busy, we're all doing things. And my kids will come to me and I'll be like, oh, I'm right in the middle of writing this email or whatever. And, you know, sometimes it's okay to say, hey, hon, I see that you're there. I just got to finish this email. Okay, so my child has seen that I get that they're there and they want something. I'm not just ignoring them, and I'm not necessarily going to stop every single time what I'm doing. Now, on the other hand, sometimes we need to just not do email, right? We need to just really make sure we put aside everything else and just focus on them, really hear them, really take some time to just put everything.
Oh, we were doing so well there. Let's have some comments.
And before that,
I think we're breaking up.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about what Anne was saying, and I think part of that is as parents or, you know, whatever, we have to maybe shift our expectations of what to expect from our children in times like these. I think that's something that's kind of coming out for me and what Anne's saying, and that's a little bit about a mindset shift. having a bit of empathy for where they are, because it's not just us who are feeling that stress, and we can project that onto them as well. But just imagine what they're going through when they don't have an adult brain like ours. So I think just adjusting our expectations.
I'd love to chime in with a thought here. I'll just read a comment from the chat box. Someone's saying, I wish my husband did more rough and tumble with the kids. He's never been interested. I would love your thoughts on this. I've got thoughts on this, but Celia, I'd love you to share what your thoughts on that.
Well, I'd be asking why not. I know that sounds like a very obvious question, but what is it that's stopping him from wanting to do that? Does he just not enjoy that? Did he maybe have some situations in his childhood that were quite uncomfortable? So there might be some conversations around that.
Oh my gosh, it's one in, one out. It's interesting, Sarah, when I saw your comment there, I was thinking, I always go, love languages on it, really. I mean, personally, if someone's like, doesn't like rough and tumble, I imagine that physical touch is not their love language. So sometimes, but if it is one of your kids' love language, then yeah, I'd be like, it's time to just, push your kind of love language, not off to the side, but just realize that to communicate with that child in the rough and tumble way, because physical touch is their love language, is going to be so amazing for strengthening the bond, for reducing stress and anxiety, like Celia was saying. I think that's definitely something to consider. I know for myself, with my daughter, she is quality time. So I'm not going to really rough and tumble with her necessarily, but I know that quality time, spending time with her is important to her. So I'm going to come back to my tip, which is, I shared this actually in the teen panel that we did. And if you've got teens in your house, be sure to go back and check that out with my 3 amazing guests on teens and tweens. But the tip I use there is make sure that you love them in their love language, and especially during challenging times. So that was my tip there, which, I'm going to kind of piggyback on that because it's so relevant. Okay, let's bring Celia back in. She's back. Hi, Celia.
I don't know what happens. It just keeps dropping off.
I was just sharing a little bit about love languages. And for me, it comes back to, physical touch is maybe not his love language, and therefore he doesn't want to or get any joy from doing rough and tumble. But sometimes you just got to not make yourself do it. But, if you do have a physical touch kid, then making sure, even if it's piggybacks, even if it's like, I can't do piggybacks. I have a bad back. I haven't picked my child up since he was 3 and he's 9, but I can do other things. Like trampoline with them and play Marco Polo, which they seem to love. All right.
And sometimes it can be a learned thing as well, like learning not to like something. Because as far as there's 6 elements of risky play, and rough and tumble was one of them. And it is, especially for younger children, it is a really important part of them connecting the different neurons in their brain to strengthen their brain growth. So it might be something they grow out of, might have an experience that they don't like it. And like you say, they develop or they get more aligned with their different love languages. So I think that's normal as we get older, we'll be able to identify. But a lot of younger kids will definitely still thrive through a little bit of rough and tumble. And tickles. It's mainly tickles, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe. And some will not like that. I'm not physical touch, so tickling me, honestly, will probably like.
You don't like it.
Yeah. All right, let's go to another tip. So we just did Anne's tip, and I think, are we back to you, Celia, for your second tip? Is that where we are?
Oh, far out, maybe.
Let's do it. Let's rock into it.
Yeah, we'll get in before I cut out again. So this is probably looking at us as the adults, because I think one of the things that can create or exacerbate a bit more of a challenging situation is if we haven't got ourselves in check. And I'm thinking about our own emotional state, because if we are emotionally present and emotionally calm, that is going to help our children also be calm and deal with a challenging situation a lot more. So, I'm thinking about stuff for ourselves. One, obviously, because I'm a nature advocate, you have to get outside. And I'm hearing a lot of adults who are not prioritising that through this time. And it blows me away. We all know that when we walk outside, we do feel different, we feel better. So I really want to encourage adults to be getting out there and making sure that they're not just working through the whole day, that they're getting their own outdoor time and their own nature time and fresh air. But it's also things like deep breaths, taking time to take 20 deep breaths during the day, positive affirmations, reducing your own screen time, those things that can help you to be calm so that you can respond to your children's emotions. Because, we are seeing a lot of big emotions in this time, it's coming out in anger. Sometimes it can come about like whining or nagging or not being able to do something that they have previously been able to do quite competently, but they're just wanting to know that we're there and that their safety net is there. So, just making, if we're in an emotionally calm state, it's going to help us respond in a way that's going to help them stay calm as well.
I totally agree. And you guys know I love my essential oils. We have this oil called Balance, and it's the grounding blend. I call it the shouty mom blend because literally, like, you take the oil, you put it on your, on your temples or breathe it in. And I always talk about how it's like bringing nature inside. Celia, I did a little comment in the comments. I said, balance your green time with your screen time. It's so easy, especially for us adults. And if we're working from home, which many of us are, it's so easy to get like 4 or 5 hours of screen time in, and you're advocating for 3 hours a day of nature time. Like, for a lot of people, that'll sound like a lot. Can you talk to us about that?
Yes, so it's actually quite achievable for children. We are just in an area of our kind of human evolving that is very techie focused, and we do watch a lot more screens than we ever used to. But when we kind of think back to what time was like before we had screens, kids were fine. They were able to entertain themselves, they're able to play. And screens, it's kind of a dopamine elevating effect on our body, so it's giving us a surge. And what happens is, if we watch too much screens as an adult or a child, we get so stimulated that stuff that might seem like it's kind of, mellow or not very stimulating is going to seem boring. And but actually it's not. It's actually really good for our brain. So I know it's really hard at this time, and I actually don't want to give any guidance and saying, get your kids off screens, because to be honest, there's a lot of parents out there who don't need that advice, and it's not helpful, because we're in a situation where we're having to work from home and we're also having to care for our children full time. So there is going to be more screen time. What I would say is break it up if you can, for not only your children, but for yourself, and go outside and play. So break it up. It could be for morning tea or whatever. Go outside for 20 minutes, half an hour, and just have some time in the garden. Could be having a cup of tea while they play tag, jump on the trampoline, having lunch outside if it's a nice day. So just make an effort to make that happen through this challenging time, and that will really help everyone, and it will kind of dissect that screen usage, which I know is up. It's up in our family, it's up in most families I talk to. It's just the reality of where we are. But when we get back to whatever our new normal is, 3 hours outside is quite doable. I probably won't go on too much about that.
But how amazing has it been, you guys? So when you do get outside to do your daily walk, to see families like bike riding together all over the place, I really think we're getting back to how things used to be a little bit back in the day, where maybe families used to do more family things together. So I think that's pretty magic too. Hey, I'm going to read 2 quotes. One comment and 1 question from the chat, because I love how people are really engaging with us. Yay, Brad, amazing to see you on this. Okay, so Joe says, my boy loves rough and tumble. I don't enjoy it at all, like me. So we do push-up competitions side by side instead. Love it, love it, love it. First of all, I love push-up competitions. And secondly, what I love there is she's adapted to so it's a win-win. Everyone's happy. Here's the question from Ruth. Ruth Webb, homeschooling. Good to see you, Ruth. Homeschooling. We have one child who loves learning and is dedicated to it, but the 7-year-old daughter gets frustrated by herself when she struggles with learning. She gets angry with herself so quickly. How do we cope with this, please? Who would like to respond to this question?
That's a good one for Anne.
Yeah, Anne.
Yeah, so we might need to type that in.
Yeah.
She can see it in the chat, hopefully.
I could sort of understand. Can you hear me? I could sort of understand that question about a frustrated 7-year-old doing schoolwork. Was that it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. 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 And I think kind of one of the things that we've touched on, and I used to be a school teacher. So I totally value schooling and education and all of that. But a 7-year-old in particular, when we're talking about kids that aren't yet into the teen years, remember first of all to really focus on her strengths, focus on your children's strengths, and keep pointing out what they're doing well. And because when our kids are thinking, I'm not good at sitting down doing my work, and mom just gets frustrated with me, it's kind of like a cycle then that you're creating. So if you can, it's hard sometimes, but point out the things that she's doing really well that you love, and try just put behind you a little bit those things that are frustrating you. It's okay. You can go and talk to her dad or whatever, about how frustrated you are. Go and talk to your friends about how frustrated you are with the situation. But when you're with her, as much as possible, focus on her. We all love to be lifted up. And if my husband says to me, hun, you really need to work a bit harder, and I think you need to work on your focus, you're not very focused, if he was saying that stuff to me, it wouldn't motivate me to do my work. So really think about this whole thing. It actually kind of leads into my tip. And Celia, the little bit here of what you were saying is kind of like modeling how you want people to act, how you want your children to act. And I would also say that, it's really about being that thing. So thinking about how you be treated is how you want to treat kids, really, isn't it? So, have you seen memes on Facebook or whatever, where it's like an adult talking to another adult, like the two parents, you would talk to your children, and you realize how ridiculous it sounds to talk to another adult that way. But somehow we've decided that, to our kids in a different way. And it's kind of like putting them, they're just children. So I'd really love to challenge people to think about how they talk to their children differently than they talk to their spouse. And really, like, how would I feel if my husband was talking to me that way? And so why are we talking to our children that way and think that's okay? It's interesting to just observe that.
Yeah. And also vice versa. I'm all I'm like supportive with the kids, and with Matt, I'm like, why are you doing that? So yeah, vice versa. I'd love to chime in on this one too. One of my tips is all about parenting to the personality types. And Ruth, for me, I'd be asking like, oh, is this child, your daughter, a little bit of a perfectionist personality type? Maybe, maybe not. But with perfectionists, so we use the term expressive, analytic, amiable, and what's the other one, you guys? Anyway, the perfectionist personality type generally doesn't like to take risks. They don't like to get things wrong so much, and have very high standards. And so maybe for her, she just thinks, I should know this. Like, I should be doing better. She has such a high bar. I don't know if this is relevant, but I would love to just have you revisit going, parenting to the personality type. We're going to treat them equal, but not the same. Sorry, the fourth one is analytic. Amiable, expressive, analytic, and driver personality types. So I would say maybe she's more of an analytic, where she's just getting so frustrated because she's not learning as fast or as well as she thinks she should. And so I would invite her to just like pat herself on the back and go a little bit easy on herself. And hopefully that'll help too. So there's my little tip squeezing in for you guys. I'm going to go to Judith to share her next one.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about comfort, because the more relaxed we are, the more likely we are to eat. So that's a big thing with eating. And in the context of the meal table, that could be anything from having, a comfortable chair to sit on to having a food that they really like. And the more comfortable we are, the more likely we are to eat. And I think in these challenging times, actually ensuring our child's comfortable can be such a winning proposition. And especially if you've got children who are doing home learning, you know, are they comfortable where they're sitting? You know, are they with a sibling that just drives them crazy? You know, what's their environment like? Are they a child that needs to get out and run outside before they can sit comfortably? So, you know, should we be getting them running outside before they're sitting down? You know, is their chair comfortable? Are they warm enough? You know, if other noise from other people's distracting, because, you know, a lot of us now have got husbands at home and, you know, and 2-3 children at home, and it's noisy and it's busy, and, you know, so do they need their headphones on just so that they can, you know, have some quiet time for themselves? And I know, you know, setting up, there's now not just me working from home, but now there's my husband, and then I've got the 2 boys who are both, you know, doing their home learning. So we thought really carefully about those dynamics. You know, putting the 2 boys at the table together was never going to be a good idea. So how can we split them up? Because putting them together, it's not going to work long term for either of them. And then it's, well, how do we make them comfortable enough? You know, it's like sitting at the table. One of my things is we often put, say, for example, toddlers and small children on our dining chairs, you know, because we want them to eat dinner with us. But then they're on their knees and they're squirreling around and they're just not comfortable sitting. So that sort of translates into, you know, whatever it might be with our home learning. If we are having our child home learning, what makes them comfortable?
So good. You know, it's funny how we sometimes don't think of just the basic things, like where are they sitting and are they physically comfortable? I know for sure at our family dinners, if we separate the boys, it's going to be a smoother experience for everybody. Amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, you guys, I'm adding a few notes as we go in the chat, but by the way, I will do a little blog on this. You can check it out, nataliecutlerwelsh.com. And what I'm doing is I've got my whole Impact Entrepreneur series, which is already in existence, tons of amazing interviews on that. But also I'm slowly adding my Up Your Brave videos, so you can check that out. I will put the link up later. Also, if you're watching and you want to stay in the loop, I do have a link. You can add your email to make sure you get reminders. Gosh, I don't think I sent out the reminder this morning, but next time I'll be more organized for Thursday where we're talking about leadership. Okay, let's have a couple more tips and then we're going to figure out how we can connect with you guys online. So who's got another tip to share? Celia, have we done both of yours? I think we have.
We've done 2 of mine, yep. I think
all right,
we've done 2.
Anne's had a chance to do both of hers?
Yep.
Amazing. All right, let's do a quick wrap.
Can I just, can I?
Go.
I just wanted to kind of comment based on just what everyone was talking about. And like I say, I wasn't catching all of it, but this idea of how we react to things is actually based so much on our unconscious thoughts and feelings. You know, the importance of your children's childhood just goes back to how important your own childhood was. And we know that our brain wires up, particularly in the first 1,000 days or the first 2.5, 3 years of life. But, you know, it carries on, wires up all the way through our entire childhood. And that happened to all of us as well. So a lot of times when we're being frustrated or reactive or, you know, whatever we're thinking and believing, a lot of it comes from that unconscious part of it. And a lot of times, Natalie, we're not even aware of what it is. We just believe it. We just, you know, we feel that way about it. We're frustrated and we don't necessarily know why. And even if we sat and thought about it, we might not come to a conclusion about that. So it's some of the interesting work that I do as a MAP coach is really tapping into some of that, because it's not always all in our control in a way. So, you know, being easy on ourselves, can we all just give ourselves some compassion and love and be gentle with ourselves? You know, yeah, it's really, really important. We're not going to be perfect and our kids aren't going to be perfect. And that's what being human is all about. And I think just recognizing that, being compassionate.
Yes, such a good point. I know that Anne, I did a brilliant 40-minute interview just with Anne where she talks about connection-centered parenting and the importance of the first 1,000 days. And I said to her, oh gosh, well, I obviously missed that, but that's no problem. There's so many things we can do to be more connected with our kids. Thank you so much for adding that in. Anne, while we've got you, where can we find you online? Where can we find out more about you?
Yeah, so really Facebook is the best way, and there is my private community is the Connection Centered Parenting community, which really is mostly parents of children under the age of 10. And I'm in there, and that's my most active space. And I would love to connect with people who want some more support with kind of this gentle parenting side of things, and maybe want a bit of coaching for themselves, and just some tips and stuff for their parenting in the younger years. So you can do a quick clarity call with me, see if there's room that fits, or some private coaching. But I just love to have people in my free Facebook community. So it's a great place to connect.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I will be adding the links, you guys, so you can come back later and catch those. Okay, what about you, Judith? Tell us, how can we follow you, or what are you up to? How can you help people further?
Okay, mine's easy. I'm the Confident Eater, so you can go to my Facebook page, which is the Confident Eater, and I run a very active Facebook page in a couple of groups, and I'd love to have people come in there, and I've put a lot of really good content about eating, and I do some Facebook lives, and talk through some stuff. So if you do have a child you'd love to be eating more variety, please come over and join us, and yeah, it'd be great to have you there.
Amazing. And I think really highlighting one of the things is obviously in terms of mood and in terms of happiness and mindset and mental health, eating healthy food, right? Is super crucial. I know that's one of the things, not just people to eat, but eating the healthy food for the mental well-being. And this is for adults as well, right? During times of craziness, sometimes some people will overeat, like they'll comfort eating, right? And other people might just go into a state of fear and not eat so much. So making sure that we stay fueled. Do you agree? Is that so?
Look, I think, obviously there's the optimal, and the better we eat, the better we feel, and that's always going to be the case. But for children who really struggle to eat, every step we can take in the right direction is going to make them feel better socially, emotionally, mentally, and that's really, and physically, and that's a positive thing.
Amazing. Great. Okay, Celia, how can we follow you?
Cool. So I have a Facebook page, Little Kiwis Nature Play, and I'm pretty active in there. We've got a pretty big following there. I do a lot of lives. In fact, I did a live last week, which is pinned at the top, and that's around backyard play in lockdown. And so there might be some parents who watch this who find that really useful. I've also developed, I had it printed out beside me, so just a wee summary tip sheet that you can download as a freebie on my website, www.littlekiwisnatureplay.com. And I also have a couple of Facebook groups, and one's mainly for nature educators, but I think, educators it's not just teachers, as parents, we are educators as well. So everyone's welcome in there as a private Facebook group.
Amazing. So many amazing resources. Thank you so much, you guys, for joining us. We are going to come back later, read the rest of the comments. So by all means, keep the questions coming. Some of these ladies can chime back in and answer your questions as well in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us. So I'm Natalie Cutler-Welsh. I help people to amplify their impact in business and their wellness in life. So I have an essential oil business, and I also work primarily with speakers, authors, business coaches, and consultants to help them with visibility and resilience. So I'd love to hear from you too. You can check it out, nataliecutlerwelsh.com. And until next time, you guys, remember to up your brave, say what you want, and make it happen. Thank you.
Thanks for having us,
Thank
Nat.
you. Thanks, Nat. It's been fabulous.
Thank you.